Okay, 6:30. Call to order the regular meeting of the Tracy City Council, Monday, March 11th, 2019. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do you have anyone for the invocation?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in this city of Tracy the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, next item is approval of the minutes from February 25th, 2019.
Make a motion to approve.
First and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And can we get approval, a motion for approval of the agenda?
Can we add, in 10C, line 5, the library board actually has 2 openings, and there were 2 applications received. That changed from 1 and 1 application, I think, in the original. And then on 11, line A, approve authorized signers for Ellers Investors, State Farm Bank, and Morgan Stanley. And then in 12D, a resolution 2019-19, a gambling permit for St. Mary's.
I have all those on here.
What's that?
They were added.
Yeah, they were added.
Okay.
Motion to approve with changes.
Second.
And first, second discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any conflicts of interest this evening that anyone knows about? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Anyone from the public have any comments on anything that is not on the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. Public hearing is at 7, so we want to move down to LSS, 10A.
Put them on the spot.
Yep. We'll jump ahead to the 10A LSS Senior Nutrition Program Site Use Agreement.
We lied, we'll get you up right away.
Bummer, we'll have to take a different route home then, right? Yeah. Thanks for having us here tonight. Really appreciate your time. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andrea Lingo, and I am the statewide program director for Lutheran Social Service in Minnesota and the Senior Nutrition Program. And I have with me Lisa Gilland, who is our new regional manager. She covers 5 counties, Lyon County being one of them. So Tracy is one of her sites that she looks over. She just started beginning of last month, so I wasn't going to throw her right in and make her do something like this. I'm really nice, so we'll keep it. All right, so a little background. LSS is the provider of the Senior Nutrition Program in Tracy. Our service is a partnership with the community and Lutheran Social Service to provide nutritious meals and social contact for individuals 60 or better. Our main goal is to keep people living in their homes for as long as safely possible and avoid premature institutionalization by going early to assisted living, nursing homes. We want to keep them home via good meals. We do 2 kinds of service. The first service that we do, I should also state we're located at the Multi-Purpose Center. We have the kitchen there, or we rent the kitchen from the city. We have 2 different types of service. The first one is congregate dining, where we prepare the meal and then diners can come down to the site and eat with us. We also have home delivered meals. Also, more frequently known as Meals on Wheels, same exact thing. We do that. The meals are prepared and packaged down at the site, and then community volunteers deliver them to our customers in their homes. Meals are open to anyone in the community. The cost for the meal is $7.40. For anyone who is 60 or better, we ask for a suggested donation of $4.50 or whatever one can afford. I always say it's kind of the double-edged sword of the program. It's nice regardless if someone, as long as they're 60, they can get a meal. So if they can't afford to donate anything towards their meal, we still feed them. It also makes us feel really good that we can do that. Not everybody can do that, but that is something that we do. Meals are provided on a confidential free will donation basis. Menus and meal selections are prepared by a licensed registered dietitian to ensure that meals are healthy and nutritious. Meals are available for individuals with special dietary needs such as diabetic, low salt, low fat, anything. As long as it's medically necessary, we really try and adapt to those. We do have someone that comes down to the center that is gluten-free, and we really do everything we can to make sure we are able to serve him meals as well. So why we're here tonight, our request. We are here tonight to request the rent for the use of the multi-purpose center be reduced. I want to fully acknowledge that communication on our part probably is has not happened the best. We had a great conversation with Chris at the multi-purpose center. I think it was last week already, and we send out our yearly contract, and from year to year sometimes that number changes, like what happened this year. And I'm in communication with Chris. He's like, you need to come to city council and ask, which was great. I was never told that before, and it's just nice to be able to come and visit with you about what we do and why we're in need of your support. So 2018, we did pay $2,579, and it's actually been that amount since 2016, I believe. For 2019, we're asking that the city of Tracy consider reducing the rent to $953, which would put us at about 14 cents a meal. Or we're also wondering if the city of Tracy would entertain the option of entering into a price per meal contract. We have a price point of about 14 cents a meal reimbursement. So that would be if we serve less meals, the city of Tracy would get less, but also if we serve more meals, you would also get more money. Right now we're in operation Monday through Friday. We have the congregate dining and the Meals on Wheels go out Monday through Friday, unless it's the winter like it has been. If the school's closed, then we do typically close down. Otherwise, we're open. Our hours, we have Kim, who is also here, our cook, and she works there. We have adjusted her hours, so she's there from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So she's there 5 hours a day for our service. This, as you know, the facility is used for other things as well, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that 8 to 1 is the time frame that we're there and we're using the facility. So our why, why are we asking for this? We have limited funding to make our program operate. We are state and federally funded. We also receive donations for people that are receiving meals. But as far as the federal funding, it's stagnant. Although costs increase, such as food costs, supply costs, employee wages, everything that rolls in to be able to provide a service, all of that goes up, and our funding just stays nice and level, which leads us to finding more community support, and why we're coming in front of you today to ask for some support on behalf of the city. So I do have just a few handouts for you. Just want to give you some information so you can see how many meals we're serving down there. I gathered the last about 3 years, so 2016, 2017, 2018, and we're just fresh into 19, so that's yet to be determined, I guess you could say. But I did put on there the average meals that are served for both congregate and home delivered. The average meal donation, when I said the double edge of the sword, so anybody 60 or better can get a meal for a suggested donation of $4.50 or whatever they can afford. If you look on here, average meal donation for congregate, 2016 was $2.96. 2017 was $2.45, and then 2018 we actually increased our suggested donation. It was at $4. We increased it to $4.50, and so that went up to $3.02 is what we received. I will say the 2019, that's only January, and the rest is for the whole year, so that can really fluctuate. I would assume that that will go up because the 3 years, 2016 through 2019, have stayed pretty consistent, little fluctuation. Also, home delivered meals, 2016 was $2.70, 2017 was $2.68, and 2018 was $2.09. So what this is also showing me is that we're serving who we should be serving. There are people with limited incomes that live in the community, and we have a target population that is actually set to us by our funders. High nutrition risk, low income, frail older adults. That's who we really want to target. And by these lower donation rates, that's showing me we're hitting them. But that also means less income and revenue, to support the program. Also wanted to point out the nutrition risk. So anybody that comes to dine with us fills out a registration form, and on there we ask questions. We ask what we call nutrition risk questions, such as, have they changed the way they eat due to illness? Do they eat less than 2 meals a day? So are they eating toast and coffee for breakfast and a coffee and cookie for supper? Because those don't count as meals. We're talking an actual meal as one that we would serve down there. So we're finding that 72% of our congregate diners and all of our home delivered customers are at high nutrition risk. And I also did some research on the income and where people are falling for the income guidelines for congregate and home delivered meals. And again, that's showing me that we really are hitting a target population here in the community of Tracy. And lastly, you'll also find in your handouts was an action plan. In talking with Chris, he had just suggested we put this together. We'd really like to see our meal numbers go up. We realize they've been falling the last couple of years, and we need to really put some big effort into getting those meal numbers up. So Lisa had put down an plan of action, and I'll let her talk about that.
Sure. So what we're looking to do is we're really looking to utilize the support of the city as well as things that we can do as far as being a foundation. Some of the things that we've talked about as far as a plan of action have been to allocate 2 hours per week from our site coordinator, who is Kim, to reach out to businesses and members of the community to ensure that they know about the benefits of our nutrition program as a meal, as well as a social source within the community. We do find that a lot of the community members like to come in just for the social interaction as well, and that's really important for them, as well as getting that nutritious meal there. We would look at creating signage and flyers to give to businesses within Tracy, along with our monthly menu. We actually have that done quarterly, but we would provide that as well as the flyer as an opportunity for the public to either dine inside at the congregate dining. Otherwise, they would also have the availability to come in and pick up a meal versus driving across town, or maybe they just don't know that that's even an option with LSS, but we do offer that as a service. We would also like to provide marketing information to the city to promote on public advertising sites such as the city's social media. We did notice that the senior breakfasts are already listed on there, and any way that we could incorporate with legwork on our side to make that happen, we would be more than happy to do that, as well as any digital signage or other areas that you would allow. We would also mail flyers and menus to all of the local churches and places of worship to be posted for public to view. Additionally, we would discuss opportunities to create additional meals or gatherings within the community and at the site that interacts with the community with LSS, such as maybe an evening meal or a Saturday brunch or something like that to involve those community members in at the site as well. And then we'd also like to connect with Sanford Hospital and their discharge administrator to see if there's a possible partnership for discharge meals for anybody who is being discharged from the hospital, as well as to connect with Prairie View Healthcare Center to inform them of our services as well. We do feel that with this plan of action that we would be able to increase those numbers and to increase the awareness of LSS in the community.
Now that we just gave you a ton of information and talked at you, put you to sleep a little bit, that's our plan of action, and we just ask for the support of the city to help keep this program running in Tracy.
I have a couple questions if I could.
Yeah.
Are all the meals prepared here, consumed here in town, or are we shipping meals out anywhere?
You're shipping out 14 meals a week. 7 go to Tyler and 7 go to Lake Benton, and that's all.
And then, what else was it? Your 14 cent per meal is like a contract from the city to you people, so if you do that like an annual payment or a monthly payment, or how would that work as far as your cash flow, or? Because I'll be honest,
Yes, please.
the $25.79 a year doesn't pay the light bill over there, so it's not like we're trying to make any money, but if we can make it work smoother, that would be the best way to go.
Yeah, that however you would want it paid, if you want it paid monthly, if you want it paid quarterly, certainly can do, more frequently than yearly. However the city would want it done, we could make that happen.
And that $9.53 that you came up with, that was based on the 14 cents a meal?
Yes, yep. In June, we have to get our contracts ready with the Minnesota River Area Agency on Aging, and so we do a 12-month look back from that, and that's where it comes from.
That's all the questions I had.
And I discussed, I'm sorry.
No, is it currently $25.79 or $27.95? I'm a little dyslexic.
Do I have it two different
No,
ways?
I don't.
Because
Oh,
I
I
wouldn't
wrote
put
it
it.
down wrong.
I wouldn't put it past me. It's $25.79.
$25.79?
Yeah.
One of the things, I got a chance to bump over there the other day and talk to them a little bit about this, and it's, this is one of those things as a community, my personal opinion on this is that we have to support these people who, some of them can't support themselves or wouldn't get that type of meal thing, and I think that's exactly what the multipurpose center is for. And I think you touched on it when you said it doesn't pay the light bill over there. There's nothing that says we can't enter into 1 year and try something
No, that's what I
and
mean.
sit down and have this same conversation a year from now. And I encourage that we try to assist them with trying to recruit more. There are other people in this community that could benefit from this service, and I've actually talked about UCAP busing and stuff, if there was something we could set up with something like that to try and encourage people to get a ride up there and things like that, whether the city funds some passes for that or, through a negotiation process here, ask them to do partial of, buy so many bus passes per year and things like that to try and help recruit more people. So, there's lots of options to grow this. If you wanted to consider the price point per meal, that's, that allows their growth.
This is currently under a lease, correct?
What's that?
This is currently under a lease.
It's an annual contract.
It's an annual contract?
Yeah.
It's a revenue amount, but like I said, it doesn't.
Right. Now, of the meals that are prepared over there, the food, is any of that purchased locally in Tracy?
We do utilize the grocery store. Majority of the food does from, we have a wholesaler of Sysco. We also utilize Second Harvest Food Bank, and that really helps us keep our raw food costs down as well. But yeah, we do utilize the local grocery store to help with the supplies at this site.
I think it's a
Equipment
necessary.
is all ours, right?
Equipment actually belongs to senior dining. And some of the equipment's ours. Kim, you want to help on that? Some of the equipment belongs to the city, but most of it belongs to senior dining, correct?
Right. The equipment that the city,
Come on up.
You knew we'd sucker you into coming up here.
I thought you said you weren't gonna talk.
this,
Yeah.
I know, the city bought a new refrigerator about a year ago, I believe, wasn't it, Shane? So they have a new refrigerator over there in the vault. Anything that is attached to the wall belongs to the city, which would be the stainless steel tables, the hood above the stoves, the sink, that kind of stuff all belongs to the city. The freezers, the big refrigerator in the kitchen, the dishwasher, the stoves, the convection oven, all that stuff belongs to senior dining. And senior dining does maintain the equipment. The city never gets billed for anything when it comes, like if it breaks down. I mean, that's why we have the fundraiser of the pancakes and all that, so that the money is there to replace it, fix it, whatever. So,
Just for clarification also, senior dining and LSS are two separate entities, right?
They're one entity. They're together. We operate, senior dining there's the senior nutrition program umbrella, right? And underneath that is like congregate dining, also known as senior dining. There's home delivered meals, which is also known as Meals on Wheels.
Yep.
We have volunteers and staff who help do fundraisers to keep the equipment maintained, to purchase new equipment when needed. Also to do activities at the site. It does a Christmas party, different things like that otherwise there isn't funding for. And to be honest, Kim has been great at making sure that stays up to par and that we're taking care of what we need to do.
can I just make a comment? Andrea was talking about the Meals on Wheels people and the congregate. I just want you guys to know that there are 4 people who get Meals on Wheels, and if they didn't get that, they would have absolutely nothing to eat. I just want you to know this is a very serious thing. Maybe not to you, but to them, that's how they stay alive.
Yep.
They eat half for lunch and then they'll eat the other half for supper. So while you're making your decision, keep that in your mind. And there's 2 or 3 that come up there to eat that don't have the money to pay $4.50, so they might pay a dime, they might pay $1, they might pay nothing. I just want you guys to think about that when you're making your decision, because you know what, it could be any of you someday.
And like I said, there is a big difference between eating toast and coffee for breakfast and a cookie and coffee for supper. I mean, I witnessed it in my grandpa every day. That was his thing. I'm good. I've got my cookie. I'll go into Casey's. Maybe I'll get a donut. There's a big difference in eating something like that and eating a well-balanced, nutritious meal. Our goal is to keep people out of nursing homes, out of assisted livings. Like I said, safety, of course, comes first. And also when they're in their homes, they're also taxpayers. They're putting back into the bucket to make the communities go.
I think it's important that we support
Yep.
this program. But like Tony said, how do we best do that?
Where did you come up with the 14 cents per meal?
That's something as a program-wide that we have a target.
Well, if you're planning on expanding that, maybe your $953 or $900 a year for a contract would be better off than going per meal. So I would make a motion to enter into a contract with LSS Senior Dining for $900 a year to use the facility.
Just flat out 900.
Yeah. Keep it simple. That's less than what they've offered.
Per 1 year?
Yep.
I'd second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Questions? Comments? All in favor of entering into contract for 1 year for $900 for senior, was it senior?
Senior nutrition.
Senior nutrition, thank you.
Names for us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. And we invite you down to dine. We'd love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
We got about 4 minutes. Is that enough time to cover the UCAP?
No,
No.
no, he's got a slide presentation.
Water memo?
We
Water
could
meter memo?
We could probably get on that water meter thing.
All right, let's do that.
Hopefully it's cut and dry, but we'll see. So as you can see, the simple version of this is we want to get these old meters replaced in town. Old meters are a manual read and people, you know, they write on their water bill how much is on there and then they get a surprise at the end of the year, or they don't write it in, it's got to be calculated. And we have budgeted for, and we have most of them on the shelf, the radio read meters to go in. The problem is we're not getting the support from the people who have the old style to allow us in the facility to change them out. So what I'm asking the council to consider is putting a little bite into this so that we can get people to do it. I have no interest in I know none of you do sitting here trying to find someone $500, but it sure means a lot more on a letter that we would generate to them. I'd like to send out a 90-day warning letter requiring access to change the water meter to the new radio read one, which will reduce labor costs and there's some missed revenue by having the old meters. After 30 days, if there's no reply from the parties, oh, by the way, there's 54 of the old style meters left, that's it. After 30 days, if there's no reply, we'd like to then send out a certified letter ensuring that the party knows that they are being required to allow us access. And if they do not meet that 90-day time frame, I ask that you put a $500 fine on the parties. And then after 120 days of not allowing access, we shut off their water until they allow us access.
Are all these, they all have residents? They're all occupied?
There are a few structures that are not occupied, but we'll still get a hold of the owners and make sure that we can get into the facility. Again, the old style requires a manual, somebody to go in once a year to audit it and go in there, and it's a labor cost that we have where we own the radio meter. We are doing 90% of the town already with it, and it's these last diehards that won't let us in their basement.
But they have to let you in once a year.
What's that?
They have to let you in once a year already, right? To read them?
For the audit of them?
Just when we request, if we sense
Yeah.
there's something wrong. I mean,
You know, if there's a spike in their water usage, or, you know, a suspected leak, or,
tamper or,
yeah. And
it'll
we-
flag us when we do our route, if the meter's been tampered with, or high usage, or no usage. I mean, some people have high usage every month, they just use a lot of water. I mean, so
The
it's hard-
radio read will tell you that.
The radio read will
Right.
tell you that.
The old meters
The
won't.
old meters won't. So how do we know how we currently billing them if we don't know?
We don't.
That's the missed revenue portion of this. Somebody
As
could be
meter
using
age.
2 units a month and telling us that they're using 1 unit a month. And we have no way of verifying that without access to the meter.
And in the past, they just end up with a $2,000 water bill if they haven't been reading it honestly, you know, because we're going to give them the honest reading. And we do write the dates on all the heads when we disassemble them, and that head stays on the shelf for probably a year before we destroy them, so, I mean, if they wanna come back after us, it's there, so. That and out of that 54, there is a few that the curb stops were froze solid that we couldn't get at, to shut them off because they're in a tight location. So there's a couple, 3 of the 4 of them are maybe, that we'll have to get at this spring, but for the most of them, I don't know if they made contact or what with these people, but I know there's quite a few that, just aren't replying to any of our letters that we've sent so far.
Pose you a question before we go to the public hearing, give you time to gather your thoughts. Would it be more expeditious to come up with a time frame where if they don't reply, you just turn it off, and that way you can also get ahead and fix those curb stops? If they're bad curb stops, then get it, instead of giving them 120 days and this and trying to go after money, they're not paying the water bill anyway.
Well, some of these
not
are.
letting you in, but
Yeah, most of them are
Yeah,
paying the
well,
water bill.
But just, I think my opinion, you know, let us in, you got 30 days to contact me with an appointment, or we're gonna shut the water off, and then we'll come in and change it, type thing.
For security, I can't really tell you the name or address, but there is one that we've been fining $50 a month since last year.
We need to shut them off. But we need to go
But
to
he
public
pays it every
Well,
month.
it's 7 o'clock. Let's do the public hearing. We'll come back to this. So, we're now gonna have the public hearing on the composition of the planning commission. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay. So we have a copy of the ordinance, or not the ordinance, but the changes.
It's number 368 in your packet. Change in subdivision 2.
Okay.
You want me to read it out, or?
Yeah, for the record,
Okay.
please.
Members of the commission may be composed of both residents and non-residents. Non-residents shall demonstrate a vested interest in the city of Tracy, including but not limited to owning a business or property within the city limits or regularly participating in city functions or activities. This was the cookie cutter terminology for allowing someone that maybe they don't reside in the city of Tracy, but they have a business in Tracy, to be able to be on the planning commission.
I would like to see something in there, some verbiage about that not more than 50% of the planning commission be non-resident. I mean, I'd like to put that out there. Is there anybody else want to comment on that, or?
I think, just to save ink, you have that option as the mayor, and then mayors down the road have that option to appoint or not to appoint somebody. So the appointing official will control the composition of the committee, and we don't have to have it in there.
Unless, but if it's in writing here, then it has to be complied with.
Well,
As opposed to, in the future, then you would always have the option to have more than 50% as
but
part of that.
as a devil's advocate, if you go out in the future, you're not getting any support from the community. Are you gonna leave the board short because you had one up with 60% of non-resident business owners on it? That's, I mean, it's my crystal ball doesn't go out that far. That's
No,
why
I
you gotta trust who you elect to mandate it. But that's just my opinion on it.
I think either way you go, you could approach that question, if need be in the future, in either direction, so. So that's my 2 cents.
I'll be honest, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because the way we are challenged with getting applicants for our boards and our commission, I would like to see it be not more than 50, but if we're not getting applications or qualified applications, if we're, weighing between 3 people and, we feel strongly that this one would be very good, but because we've already got our 50% quota met for business owners, I would hate to pass on a good candidate. So, I'm kind of, right now, I'm juggling. If I saw a lot more activity of people in the community applying for these boards, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with it. But I would hate to pass on a good member that would apply for it just because we'd already reached 50%. As long as they own a business in town. But that's where we as a council would decide, because it's still pretty vague as far as, I'm sorry, I don't have it pulled up here, how it's worded about, or that regularly participating in city functions or activities. That's kind of vague. I guess I personally would look at they would be paying taxes. If they're going to be on a planning commission that does a lot of the planning for a future, I feel they need to be paying taxes.
I think the thing to consider here is that if you have someone apply, if you had 3 positions open and you had 1 person applying for that board, you don't have to appoint them. So you still have that power as a council to fill the board with the people that you as a council determine fit that. So you always have the ability. I think if you make yourselves too restrictive on things, you sometimes make it hard to.
Well, in that light, we also would have the ability to remove someone if we felt necessary to keep balance as well.
Yep, correct.
I guess right now, I'm sitting here, and I said I was bouncing. Now I've landed, and I'm thinking I don't want to limit until I would see a lot more activity of people applying for these, because we can readdress this. It's not something that's going to be written and carved in stone that we wouldn't be able to change it down the road. But right now, this is going to be the first time we even open it up to non-residents. I guess I wouldn't want to maybe put that limit in there until we see a lot more activity in the community members stepping forward for boards. I don't want to limit it.
Well, yeah, well, you say for boards, but this only
I guess-
addresses a board, one.
Yeah. For this specific board, for the planning commission.
So is there a motion in there?
You gotta close the public hearing and then refer to the council.
Oh, that's right. Any further comment? Okay, we will close the public hearing at this time, 7:08. And refer to council.
So I make a motion to pass, is this down here as a resolution?
Ordinance.
Because I want it, so I could say pass the resolution 2019-17 to approve ordinance 368, amending the city code 9.20 subdivision 2, as written.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now back to the water meter issue.
Then you got one that pays a $50 fine every month to still use the water.
Yep.
Is it because they don't want you in their house, you think?
This one's specifically a commercial building, but
That being said, would a $500 fine be enough to motivate them?
Well, the 50 wasn't, and 1,000 sounds excessive.
I-
So,
No.
You just keep adding a
I
zero
hate
onto
to
the
come
end
off
of
as
it?
flippant or anything, but I know for a fact that when you shut the water off, things happen.
Well, and that's why,
Right.
that's why we asked at the 120. I think the 500 would gather the attention of 90% of the people on that list. And then a few that might not get it done, shut their water off after 120 days. They've been lingering on this and trying to get these meters installed for over a year now.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Not only this radio read meter, it has to do with how you keep track of water production, which affects how we get financing through R&D and USDA and WIF and everything else. It's holding the entire community back because we're not up to speed on how we're supposed to track this stuff. So, in my mind, the quicker we get this problem resolved, better. It's kind of like the easements to get the east end of town squared away. We got to do whatever we can do to get it done and get it done quickly. So
Are most of these owner occupied or are they rentals or?
It's a combination of, yeah, it's a lot of, there's,
and if it's got
Three
got
commercial,
problems
I think.
with curb stops anyway, and that we're aware of, shut them off. And then say, we'll turn it back on after we replace this curb stop when you let us put a new meter in. And it's, all you require is 12-hour, 24-hour notice to turn the water off on somebody. That we're gonna shut the water off on Monday to replace this. We'll turn it back on when we replace your meter. That'll eliminate some of the problems. And you don't even have to worry about spending money on certified mail but yes, we need a program of something, and I'm not opposed to this, I just think we need to do it quicker.
And to add to what Tony's saying is, also, we have a city full of residents that have complied and are paying their bills. And to continue to allow this is not fair to them.
Yeah, and we're not saying that they're not paying their bill. Some of them might be honestly writing their meter reading down every month.
Sure.
But how do we know that? That's where we're at.
Well,
We just need to be consistent across the board.
Yep.
The expectation, we have the new meters, is everybody gets the new meters. We've been replacing the meters for how long? I mean, this isn't something,
2006
yeah,
they started?
it's not something that's just
No.
come overnight here. I think we have to do something to say, okay, this is the end of it. We need 100% compliance. And I think that's what you guys are asking is, how do you get 100, how do we approve?
One thing
for
I'd
you to
like
get that?
to tell you though is that the 90-day window with the 120 shut-off is something that me and Shane came up with as far as a timeline of how long will it take us to physically change out all these meters as well. So
So if all
you know,
54 said tomorrow, go ahead and do it, when could you have it done?
Spring's busy for Al right now, and it's gonna be busy for a lot of people the way the snow's melting, but we kind of erred on the side of caution to make sure that we could do that in that amount of time. And obviously some are frozen in the ground.
Right.
So I mean, we still have to wait until it thaws. So if you start now, we should be able to catch them. At least they'll make contact with us and schedule an appointment within that period, and we can get it done as soon as the ground.
Because the 120 days puts us in July.
we should be able to have them all done by then. And even if somebody calls us up 2 days after getting the letter and says, you can do it, but I'm not gonna be around till May, at least they called us and at least we've started the process. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that response back of, yeah, I get it, you wanna put a new meter in, I'll let you, so.
Does it cost them anything to put the new one in?
No.
So you're looking for basically an appointment, not necessarily having it done.
It's actually, this will turn into amending the fee schedule in resolution 2019-18. And then a resolution allowing us to shut the meters, we'd like you guys to allow us to shut the meters or the water off after 120 days of non-compliance.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, an appointment that they'll actually follow through with. So we have appointments, then we get to the appointment day and there's a no-show.
Right.
That just wastes our time.
Well, that's why I was asking, because
And that's why you have to leave
Appointment
it
and
with the
completion.
verbiage.
Correct.
What do we all need?
Okay, so as far as the cost, do we need to be sending out 2 letters? Or
Well,
can we just go by
we
a
don't wanna
certified letter?
Well, we don't want to send certified to everybody because it costs us money for certified letters. So if half the people get back to us, that'll save us half the cost of certified letters. So that's kind of why I buy that 30-day buffer of, and I think with a $500 fee on there and people realizing that every time we send out a certified letter, it's tax dollars that pay that, they would respond back to us. And the ones that won't, we have to send that certified letter because of the fact that we might be imposing a $500 fine and we might be imposing shutting their water off, depending on, you know, what they meet. And we want to let people know ahead of time. And if we let them know 60 days in advance, that's 90 days in advance before we shut their water off. 60 days in advance for the $500 fine and 90 for the shutting the water off.
July, you might want water.
So are we gonna end up needing 3 things here? We're gonna need to amend the fee schedule that you already have on here.
Correct.
We're gonna need an appointment to change the water meter out and completing changing the water meter out. And then we're gonna also need an approval of shutting off the water if there's no compliance.
If there's no compliance in 120 days.
Is there anything we're missing? Would that cover all the steps?
No, that gives us every bit of bite we need.
And if their curb stop don't work, ground should be thawed out by then. We can dig in the ground and replace the curb stop and shut them off that way. I mean,
And if they can't meet the 90 days because of something on our end, we'll draft them a letter and send them an extension, you know, until we can fix what that problem is. But a lot of the problems we can fix almost immediately, so we can do it in conjunction with it. We are anticipating a few curb stops have to be replaced to accomplish this.
So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2019-18.
Can I, sorry, 2019-18 has some other stuff on it too.
So wait on that one.
You might want to wait on that. Yeah, sorry. I didn't.
Gotcha. No problem. So then I'll make a motion to send out the letters. So people need to make appointments and then they have to complete changing the water meters out.
Yep.
Does it need to be any more specific than that, or?
No.
The fee schedule, is that, can we incorporate that? That'll be a separate.
That'll be separate. There's
Separate.
more to it.
If you want to just to approve the memo as it's written in there, that verbiage is exactly what we're looking for.
There you go. Make a motion to approve that memo.
As written.
As written.
First and second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, UCAP bus route.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for allowing us to come and share some information with you. My name is Kathleen Amick. I'm the Transportation Director for United Community Action Partnership Transportation Program. And this is Nick Leske. He's our Transportation Administrator for the Public Transit Program. And we've got some information for you. Where did you put it in the packet? We're here to ask for your support in help to participate in a route schedule that we're planning for all of Lyon County. And first of all, I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview of our program, and then I'll turn it over to Nick to describe what we're looking for as far as a bus route goes. United Community Action Partnership has been in operation since the 1980s. I've been the transportation director for a little over 25 years now, and when I first came, we started with 2 vehicles, two buses, lift accessible buses in 2 counties, and we had well over 200 and some volunteer drivers. So today, as you can see on the handout that I sent, we are now a program that covers 8 counties in southwest Minnesota with public transportation. We have around 70 program staff, and you can see how many different players there are to make this work. We're down to 75 volunteer drivers. We're finding that it's very difficult now to, many of our volunteer drivers have aged out, and there's so many volunteer activities out there that we're competing with a lot of other volunteer programs for that, for the volunteers. We have now 35 active buses in our fleet, and again, that's encompassing all of the 8 counties, as you can see on the handout. And then our trip, I gave a little synopsis of our trip statistics, and this is for all 8 counties. So in 2018, we did a little over 245,000 rides. Lyon County is one of our major service areas for transportation. It encompasses both what we call a dial-a-ride program, where people call in and they can schedule their rides. They just tell us when they want to get picked up, where they're going, what time they need to be there, and then we arrange to put it into a bus schedule that's constantly changing. And then we also have some specific routes in our program, and 2 of those routes are in the city of Marshall. It's a red route and a blue route, and just in the past year, we were also given additional funding to start 2 more routes. One is in Redwood Falls, and one is between Fulda and Worthington. So we have advisory committees that meet on a regular basis, whether it be monthly or quarterly, throughout our 8-county area, and that's made up of stakeholders, transportation stakeholders, a lot of government officials, and also riders, and those that have special interest providers on those. And so they are pretty much our steering committee for what we try to accomplish in providing transportation. We also do a lot of transit assessments and things like that that kind of guide us. As you can see in the passenger type breakdown, there's a big myth out there that our vehicles, because they're lift accessible, are only for the disabled and the seniors that ride them. But if you look at the percentage of adults that we transport, we do 32% of those. Our adults, our children under the age of 4, I believe, is a very strong, a lot of strong riders also in the program. The disabled, it doesn't matter what the age for our 20% that ride. So we have various age categories under the disabled there. So, and then the elderly and the youth. We get our funding. Majority of our funding comes from the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and that's for the public transit program. We do also have a lot of local and community partners that help also provide us help provide transportation services outside of public transit. So that's why we kind of call ourselves the transportation program, and we have community transit as our public transit, and now we're moving into what we call our community connection program, which is more geared for more specific type transportation and more assisted type transportation. But under public transit, we have to stay within a certain service design that we submit to the state of Minnesota for our funding. So we can't really deviate from that design. We're not here to compete with private providers and private entity bus companies and things like that. So we just come in and we try to meet those individual needs throughout our area. So that's kind of our funding. We are required to find local match for the grants that we get from the Department of Transportation, and we try to get as much as we can through our fares. We're also required to charge a fare on our buses. That's not an option. If we can find other local entities to help subsidize or what's the word I'm trying to think about? Will sponsor rides. I heard kind of Chris talk about maybe purchasing some ride passes or ride tokens to give out to seniors and things like that. We're definitely open to a lot of that stuff, but we're required to publish our rates and stick to our rates for anybody that gets onto the bus. So there's no such thing as a free ride, unfortunately, under public transit. But we're very, we try very hard to get the local support and very creative in making sure we meet that local share.
One thing to add to that too, this year, the first time in how many years where we actually upped the fare rates. They
Yes.
held steady for,
Since 1997. We
Yeah.
haven't raised our fares since then up until this year. And this year, actually, it wasn't even an incremental rate increase. It was an incentive increase where if you call the day prior to your ride versus the same day, you still get the same rate at $2 per ride in a town. Whereas if you call the same day, that's what we bumped up to $2.50 to help kind of cover a lot of the changing that we have to do to get them in. So yeah, so we pride ourselves on trying to keep transportation low and affordable out in Minnesota, greater Minnesota. And we have a big challenge out in this area. Our area is some of the most vast area as far as population. We don't have the population to help cover the expensive transportation that we need. So again, we become very creative as far as the local need. It's just some program-wide projects. We're working on regional bus routes, and that's kind of why we're here today. We're working on rebranding, and so Nick will show you some pictures of what we're looking at. Automated fare collection, we're trying to stay on top of technology, and then also facility investment planning. We just recently, within the last 3 years, merged with 3 big counties in transportation and things like that. So we're kind of trying to pull everything together and make things consistent. So, but with that, I think I will, unless you have any questions regarding our program as a whole, I'll turn it over to Nick and he can kind of, okay, so another reason why we're here and why we're looking at this route is like I said, we have very active people on our advisory committees and steering committees, and the county came to us and said, hey, what if we were to help support a route between some of our larger communities out in the county? Because like I said, the majority of our transportation that we do is in Lyon County, but approximately 80,000 of it's in Marshall, in the city of Marshall. So we do a little over 10 to 15,000 trips in Lyon County, out in greater Lyon County. So we're trying to build that connection and move forward with that. So they are helping us support this year to get this up and running and get going on this. So I'll let Nick take over the rest of it.
all right. So the right arrow?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right,
Left
thanks.
if you want to go back.
Left if you want to go back, perfect.
You have to
All right.
go the right.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So I'll just kind of chat about the Lyon County route, what we have envisioned. We kind of sat down amongst staff, amongst our advisory committees, and talked about major points to stop and get folks to Marshall, what times of the day and things like that. None of this is really set in stone. Like I said, we haven't put it on the road yet, so that first year will kind of be the test in the waters there and see if these times are working out, if we need to modify anything, come the next year. So we'll get started here. So coming in 2019, we're already in 19, so it should be going here pretty quick, but we wanted to get out to all the councils and talk to them. So the plan right now is for the route to originate in Tracy, head to Ballot, and then head to Marshall. Right now for our dial-a-ride service, we do house a bus in Tracy. We started that in 2014, and then we do have other buses that provide service to the county from 6:30 in the morning to 6 at night. So there is county-wide service, but like Kathleen said, quite a bit of service, in Marshall, bringing the smaller communities into Marshall for a lot of work trips, medical trips, things like that, say if they don't doctor here. So we all know Tracy to Balaton, Balaton to Marshall, kind of the quickest way to get there, but that's the plan. So like I said before, the route would begin in Tracy. It would be not really a fixed route, more of a dial ride route kind of combination. So we would start at 6:45. We would pick up the pre-scheduled dial-a-ride trips that Kathleen talked about. So folks calling in 24 hours in advance, more than that even, 2 weeks in advance, whatever it may be. So we'd pick those folks up first. Then we kind of sat down amongst, like I said, staff and advisory committees and talked about major places we would stop at besides just those and let me add, those dial-ride stops would be at those people's curb. So we'd pick them up, actually door if it'd be a county service. So if they needed assistance, we would go to their door of their house, apartment, building, whatever it may be, assist them to the bus. So those dial ride stops would begin at 6:45. Then we would head out. We'd go to the Sebastian Park parking lot. We figured there's a kind of a bustling community around there, you know, some younger families and stuff to the east in that area too. Also, that spot has a parking lot. So if folks, you know, if they travel to Marshall for work, they could probably get on the bus a lot cheaper. So it'd kind of be like a park and ride. You see those kind of different places around in the state. So maybe we could envision that as that. From there on, we'd move to Park Place on 2nd. Again, we wanted to have something close to the park area. And then we'd come around this area too here at Veterans Memorial Center at 7. So those would kind of be the stops there. Again, Sebastian Park. We don't really have an exact spot. One thing we kind of looked at with all these spots is having someplace nice where there is accessible sidewalks, ramps if there's folks and mobility devices that would need to use the service. So that would probably put us into the parking lot. You know, where would it be? Would it be just around here? Don't know quite yet, but that's where we kind of looked at for that one. Park Place on 2nd. So we'd come down and we'd stop in front of that apartment complex. We do have some ridership that live in this facility that do ride Tracy to Tracy, Tracy to Valentin, Tracy to Marshall, and so on. So, and then Veterans Memorial. So right out front here, we would like to put a stop. So, kind of chatting about the stops there. Like Kathleen said before, we do have stops in Marshall, we have fixed routes in Marshall and also in Redwood Falls. So what we would like to do right now, when we get these set up, and this is where the city would kind of come into play to help us, is to put up some signage. So we'd ask if the street department could possibly put in some poles at the stops so we could have those out, and also do some striping for a bus stop. As you can see, it has the no parking down at the bottom here. So basically, you know, paint the curb yellow, and then just a kind of a no parking area too. Buses are 25 foot long. I'm not sure how long the
Well, 50 feet.
around 50 feet. So, you know, with those areas that we kind of pointed out before, obviously we'd want to have the curb space there. We don't want to take parking away from the public, but we'd like a nice safe spot for the bus to pull into. Also, you see to the right here, we do have a few shelters. Right now, we have 3 shelters in Marshall with a plan to add 3 more this year. And then we sat down with the city engineer and the assistant engineer and talked about you know, some future revamps around town and additional shelters. So that would be something possible to add to this. You know, if we find out that these 3 stops are going to be, you know, pretty heavily utilized, we'd like to place a shelter in there in the near future. Also, you know, some redevelopment. I know there was a lot of talks, you know, of their old Red Rooster site, what's going to happen there. We generally wouldn't want to have folks cross the highway to get there, but maybe we could put something somewhere on the other side of the road there too. Kind of depends on what kind of commercial develops out there. Besides the signage and the shelters, if we would do shelters, we would just ask that the city would assist in snow removal. This year, probably more of a bigger job than it has in the past years, but we would ask for the assistance in that to keep those cleared up for us. So then after we completed those stops here in Tracy, we would then head to Ballatin, do some pickups there, do the dial-a-ride stops again, those pre-scheduled rides, and then we'd have a stop at the park right by the lake there. Everybody that's riding would then travel to Marshall. We would then bring them to the door of their destination. We wouldn't drop them off at a stop in town or anything like that. We just make sure they get to their destination. And then once those folks were all dropped off, we would head up to Walmart in Marshall and then head back to Tracy. And you kind of see in parentheses there, if we did have riders going to Ballatin, obviously we'd go to Ballatin first and then back to Tracy. So, you know, that would kind of be some work of our dispatchers. If folks are calling in and they want to get from Marshall to Tracy, they'll say, bus will be leaving at Walmart at 8:45. We'll make sure we'll get them out there, whether it be on a dial-a-ride bus or on the route bus. The red route actually stops at Walmart at 8:40, so they can get on at 21 different places in town and ride that route bus if they needed to. So then that would complete the morning, the early morning run there. You know, we wanted to make sure we got into Marshall early enough for folks coming into work. So then we would come back to Tracy and do it all again at 10 o'clock. The same kind of route we had, you know, we do those dial-a-ride pickups again, Sebastian, Park Place, and then here, and then head to Ballatin again. And then we do that route again from Marshall back, and we do the whole thing again from 3:30, starting here again, and then heading to Marshall. Oh, excuse me, again at 3:30 with return times from Marshall at 11:15 and 5 o'clock. So we'd leave Tracy 11, 3:30, and then get back 11:15 and 5 o'clock. Final passenger drops would take place in Tracy around 5:45. So, you know, you could get an 8-hour workday in, you know, with the trips spread out there. Here's just a little chart of one-way trips from Tracy. So broke it up to the 3 major players in the route there: Tracy to Marshall, Tracy to Tracy, and Tracy to Ballatin. You can see 2012 and 2013. Not a whole lot going on there. 2014 is when the bump started, and like I said before in the presentation, that was the first year that we did house a bus here in Tracy, and really started to do a lot of promotion and getting out in the community and letting them know that the service is there. So you can kind of see it's grown, and it's been pretty stable from the Tracy to Marshall, and even Tracy to Tracy. We had some high years there in 2014, 2015. And then pretty stable from 2016 to 2018. We hope to, you know, bump those numbers up within the community here in Tracy. So marketing is always a struggle for us. We don't get a lot of funding for marketing, so we try to get out there with word of mouth. When our local drivers have some downtime, we like to get them out in the community to do some promoting and things like that. Something you'd like to add?
Yeah, but as you can see, it wasn't until we actually put the bus in Tracy where the visibility, and that's kind of why we gear these stops is to, with the signage and things like that, is for the visibility. So often we keep hearing that we don't have public transit here in Tracy. I've heard that from people who live at the apartments, and you know, I'm from Milroy, so I hear a lot of the stuff out in this area, and so I really feel that Tracy can support public transportation as a community, and by getting out here and actually getting it visible in the community. So we might not have people actually standing at those bus stops every day all the time, but it takes 10 to 15 years to build something once we start it. So if we're going to do this, we have to really be on board and really start, you know, really push it, because Marshall right now is the smallest community in the state of Minnesota, and we have been successful in making sure that those routes are supported with ridership. We have met our ridership expectations and the statistics that we need to keep it going, but it took 10 to 15 years to do that. So MnDOT is out here also pushing more routes. They're very reluctant to put more dial-a-ride buses on the road, and we still have a lot of trips that we have to turn down. Number one, because our volunteer drivers were lacking in volunteers, so we don't have that. We did 12,000 less volunteer drivers last year in 2018 because we did not have the capacity to fill those trips with volunteers. And so we're trying to put more and more buses out, but the only way we can do it too is to design routes where we can get as many people moving with the least resistance of having to call in. The nice thing is if we have these stops in Tracy, people will see them, they'll understand that we do have public transit here. It may not look like those city public transits, and that's what we struggle with. So in making sure that people are aware that they can ride. So, and we know it's a two-way street. We are starting to see a more build of people from Marshall even coming to Tracy on a regular basis. So I guess
That's all. So you guys have any questions for us, whether it be the service or the route?
I guess I have a question. When you pick the places for the stops.
Yep.
I guess one of my concerns would be Sebastian Park, because at 6:55 in the AM, it's not going to be a problem. But with the summer activities and everything, that parking lot is already so jam-packed full, and people are parking along the street, that my concern is where the stop would fit in there, that,
Okay, yep.
you know, that would allow the appropriate access that we need, but not hinder all the other parking.
Right, and like I said, you know, none of these are set in stone, so if you guys do have any, you know, recommendations of where you think a good stop would be. I mean, we just kind of pulled some reports of where people were coming from, and we kind of generalized that area, and then, you know, put a stop in there, but if you guys...
And our concern is we want to try to keep the stops more in a public area versus in a residential in front of somebody's home or whatever.
Because then you guys will get calls.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sitting here even thinking, you know, kind of offset a little bit from O'Brien Court, you know, because that's still our property, you know, so it wouldn't be in front of somebody's home, but, you know, and I can't remember if you said 50 feet or how much space.
Yeah,
you said you would need.
50 is a good amount of space. We can do it with a
Just in
little
case
less,
people would
but
park in,
yeah, they
you
kind
know,
of
if they
crowd
would park in
us
the
or
front and the
something.
back, just to
Yeah.
be able to get in safely and be able to maneuver out safely.
Yeah, we'd have to go look at space and stuff like that, but I'm just concerned because that Sebastian parking lot gets filled up. You know, anyone that's had kids in.
Oh, yeah,
activities
yeah.
out there.
I mean,
it's
we
not
move-
just the pool, it's with the all the different softball.
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah, we moved,
Yeah, we
a lot of kids back and
transfer.
forth between Ballatin and Tracy doing the park and rec stuff, so, yeah, I believe it's busy.
So we were kind of hoping that with this route going too, that we would be bringing more people there.
Kids back and
Yeah,
forth.
kids back and forth.
Yeah, it's not like it'd be sitting there for an extended period. You could probably do it on the departure side. Come in, U-turn in the lot, and you
Well,
said
that's
you
right.
needed sidewalk access, load and unload, and then go from there, because the public can't park there anyway.
Oh,
Shouldn't be.
on the west side of the,
Right, of the entrance there.
Yeah.
is that our land? Or where is that property, that house that's right on the corner there?
So our property is pretty much the sidewalk there. And then where those trees are, that's where it kind of, you know, bumps out into the park area where the playground is. My question, I noticed you mentioned park and ride. So if you have extra cars there,
That would be a downside.
Yeah, right.
that'd be our biggest concern. Other than that, it's the pickup time. I mean, because they have the morning aerobics starts at 6 in the morning at the pool. We don't have a full parking lot then, but come 8 o'clock.
Fills up.
So
Okay, that was just a thought.
if it's a
Right.
timing thing, you know, it might not be an issue, but from what I see anyway.
Okay.
Would having a bus route in there relieve some of those parking issues? I mean, if people were had the option of taking the bus in there and not dealing with that.
Because I would say over half the people that are at the park actually probably walk more than drive.
I think we'd have other locations we could help set up as a park and ride
Sure.
location if that was, you know, I mean, and set it up specifically, that's what this stop is for, if that was something that,
You do that here at the VMC with that lot over there.
yeah, we've got that one, or by the liquor store, or, you know,
There's plenty
there's,
of places where it can
we've
be
got empty lots, green space, so to speak.
Designate the VFC as a park.
So
and
to
ride.
speak.
Yeah, that would be great.
So yeah, we'd be happy to sit down with you guys to talk
Yeah.
about that. We wanted to get the initial, idea out there and make sure that we're kind of being supported on it, and there was no reservations before. We wanted you guys to hear about it before we started designing something.
So do you only want to have like 3 designated stops?
I think
For,
How-
for timing wise?
how we have the timing right now, we could maybe make 4 work, but
Well, because I'm
This-
thinking Sebastian Park is actually a good place to at least have a stop, just
Yeah.
not a park and ride. It'd be a good spot, even if it's just, could we do it out on the street there, that people could, the bus wouldn't have to pull into the parking lot at all?
yeah.
Just out on the street in front somewhere that people could get off and on. You can't park there, but
They're by
then like
those
you said,
evergreens.
yeah.
It could save them time because getting through that parking lot might be
Right.
short.
Yeah.
And then like you said, then if we
try
set
to
up like
clear
the,
those.
some spot over here for like the park and ride, and then you still did like Park Place, and then you'd have the pickup here.
Okay, we kind of designate the Veterans
Yeah.
Memorial area as the park and ride one.
Even
if
Park
that
Place
was-
though has that
Across.
widened street where you could park.
Okay,
Do that there too.
okay.
Well,
I
I'm
would say
looking
run it
just-
for a couple weeks before you figure out where you want sets, put
Right.
signs up and stuff like that.
Right, and we did that too, like when we started the one in Redwood Falls, we started out with 10 stops or 9 stops, and we even kind of flip-flopped some of them, and we even added, I think, 3 additional stops just from recommendations from the public or recommendations from the drivers and things like that. So yeah, we could
Well, 'cause do the-
definitely move stuff around.
Because there's nothing here for the west end of town.
Right,
You know, it's east end and more or less center.
mm-hmm,
And here, there's nothing for the west end of town for a stop right now.
Well,
Right.
we've got the seniors and stuff that typically would call in for dial-a-ride, so they don't really would walk to some place to pick up.
is there a public area around that
We got a
side
park
of town?
down
You got
there.
park there,
The
too.
park, yeah, okay.
You could probably work with the caboose too, if it's a matter of just pulling in to pick up people.
The park really don't have any sidewalks out there. It gets quite deep in the wintertime.
Oh, which part?
The one on the
On the
west
west
side,
end. Yeah.
it's by the caboose out there.
Oh,
I mean, you guys know your customers more, but if we're trying to expand while you're adding in a bus route, there might be people that don't use it right now to go to Marshall, to go to a Walmart and stuff like that, that with this bus route, at a reasonable price, they would maybe do it, but now we're asking them to come to the center of town.
Right.
So I'm just wanting to make sure we get.
Well, we would promote it too as not only those fixed stops, but like I said before, those dial rides. So if there was people on that west end of town that wanted to utilize it, we would definitely pick them up. They would just have to call.
I was just gonna
That
say,
was the
it's-
only thing
it's planning
to
like
remember.
had those
Exactly.
24
Yep,
hours.
yep,
Yes.
yep.
and that's why, we want to do a mix, because we want people to just feel comfortable hey, we got a bus stop, we're advertising, these are the bus stops. Feel free to be there and we'll be there. So,
No, I think this is
Good
great.
idea.
Yep.
all right, well, we'll get together and move
Work out
forward
the
with
bugs
this.
Once we get started.
There you go.
Huh?
Work out the bugs once we get started.
Is that something that would be good for the planning commission to look at?
I think
Yeah, after they've tried it for a while, so you can figure out what it is they want to do and.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping to get this on the road, around May, so,
I think you'd pull the planning commission in if you wanted to create a park and ride facility. I think that would be, kind of their realm. But as far as the bus stops themselves, I really think that they are going to dictate where
They'll drive
where
it.
are our pickups and
Right.
where are we getting people from.
yeah, and that's kind of why we took these 3 spots because, this one's near the center of town where there's a lot of activity. I mean, this is the only one area that we really don't have a lot of stops, but the other 2, we're either picking somebody up there, or taking somebody to there, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks. Okay, on to appointing board members for various committees. All right, so Planning Commission has 1 opening and an application received from Dustin DeMuth. Anybody have any comments? Recommendations?
I'm glad to see him wanting to remain active in the community
Yep.
with him moving from our police force to the county. I think it's a positive he wants to remain active.
Yep. And now the ordinance has been changed, if we have 30 days before it goes into effect. If someone from the business community wants to see, like I said, I'll step off, so it's,
Well, but that would only be,
yeah. So they could have 1 more if they needed it, so.
Okay, so
Need a motion?
we need a motion to appoint?
Yeah, I think you better do each one individual because there's multiples and some.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd make the motion to appoint Dustin to the planning commission.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a first and a second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion pass. EDA Board, 2 openings, applications received from Sis and Dennis. For the record, Sis Bierman and Dennis Foltz.
Make a motion to appoint Sis Spearman and Denny Foltz back to the EDA board.
Second it.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Police Commission, 1 opening. Application received from Rosemary Martin, Dustin DeMuth, and Valerie Mead. Any discussion?
I would like to see Valerie Mead get an appointment. She's been trying to, she volunteered for a bunch of committees. She volunteered to join the council for a council appointment. We should recognize her attempts at least.
well, like we said, we want to get more diversity and everything. It's why the vote went through this fall, so I think we need to look at people that haven't been on committees. Dustin, we now just appointed to the planning, so I would second, if that was a motion.
I'll make it as a motion.
I'll second that.
First and second, any discussion? So, are we looking at qualifications here, or are we just looking at, changing
Well, I mean-
personnel, or?
Well, I think both. I mean, as far as planning commission, yeah, I guess from what Jason has said before, what they're required to do, I think Valerie would be qualified for it, from what she put on her application.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. HRA Board, 1 opening, application received from Sis Bierman and Joseph Bierman.
It's like an internal argument that they want us to solve.
did they do this on purpose?
Well,
Okay, you two.
Yeah, they're watching. You know they are.
I would apply the same logic. I mean, if Joe's willing to serve, I think he'd be a good job, do a good job, assisting on other boards. It's fresh blood.
They're both qualified, so.
Yeah.
Was Joe's in the packet here?
He just submitted it.
Today.
He got it in under the radar.
So there was a squabble over the weekend.
Snow days. Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to appoint Joe in the HRA board.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Library, 2 openings. Applications received from Trudy Williams and Colleen Schiller.
I would make a motion to accept Judy Williams and Colleen Schiller to the library.
I'll second that.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Charter Commission, 3 openings. Applications received, none. So, that seems to be solved. Move on to, go ahead.
On the Charter Commission, I would encourage Chris to reach out to people who applied to various boards, see if he can recruit some interest.
I'd like to reach out to every one of these that have applied for other boards and ask them if they have any interest in the Charter Commission. We have members in the Charter Commission that are holding on just because they know that we need them there to operate, but they have no interest in staying on the commission. I think we're gonna discuss potentially moving the meeting time. Was that right? Okay. Just because I think that the time of when the meeting occurs is potentially hurting us too. And the Charter Commission will be meeting a lot less upcoming too, so. So,
This might be a good opportunity to reach out to those residents that are not represented in any of the current boards as well.
so I will take that assignment and reach out to the individuals and encourage anybody that is watching now.
Yeah, I would-
We need some new blood.
I would echo that, yeah, encourage people, and I have in the past, encouraged folks to get involved and,
So you say you're gonna be moving the time. Do you know?
That's not up to me, it's up to the commission, but the charter.
It's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Because we have some people who can only meet in the mornings because they have,
Sorry, Rose.
because they have evening jobs. We have a couple in that position. Then we have the reverse. So we really have to look this over. But yeah, there's like Dustin, he would be great. Sis and Joe both. Yeah, get those folks in there.
do you have any proposed time or any idea where you may move it to?
What is it, President?
Right now, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. If we move it to the evening, we eliminate several people right off the top.
That's on
That's the
board
problem.
already.
That's on the board right now, which is kind of tough. We could go to possibly a weekend meeting, I don't know. We've done a fair share of our work already. We only have a couple more chapters to review, and then we would be meeting quarterly after that. And then in the next years to come, it'd be as needed and yearly, because we are required for a yearly meeting, so. But we've gotten a lot of our work done. So I could see it being, I don't know,
2-3 more meetings and then go to quarterly.
yep.
So really, by the time the next person would fill out their application, get appointed,
Right.
you're
Well, and then
looking
it's gotta
at,
go through the courts. So that's added
So
to
they're
it.
almost a quarterly then.
Yep.
yep,
The thing of it is that we have to maintain 9, we have to maintain the number on there for us to continue to be able to meet legally. And people are staying on that commission just because they know that. And so
So when's your next meeting? Do you think you'd be able to do a time so we could actually?
we still have to set that up.
Yeah, it's,
The snow really raised
we
up
could,
with us.
and as you said before, we'll reach out to these people. In fact, actually, if you've got some time, maybe we could
Right.
reach out together,
Right.
we'll call them.
Yes.
And then maybe part of asking them is, what would you propose? What works with your schedule, you know, things
Okay.
like that.
Find
Let
out
them have
first.
some,
Yeah,
we want to meet the people that are on the board still and that want to stay and be active and try to meet their times. But part of our problem is because of the time that we meet. So, see what works.
We've been able to make it work the way it is now, but to get more people into that fold is going to make it difficult as well, so.
10 a.m. would be a difficult.
Right.
so you're saying it's not sustainable. All right, well, thank you. Airport Board. Appointment, appoint council representative. You're currently serving in that position, aren't you, Tony?
From the last position, yeah. As a non-voting member at the time.
How would you like to do it again?
I don't care. Or like I said, you'd enjoy it too.
When does it meet?
As needed.
Yeah, rarely.
Probably more often coming up, but
Yeah.
It's a summertime club.
Yeah, I can do it if you want
Yeah.
to take a break. It doesn't matter.
So it's up to you.
I'd say normally 2 to 3 times a year
Sure, I
at
can
the
do
most, but could be more coming up with the projects going on, but
Well, I'll make a motion to appoint Anthony Demers to the Airport Commission. Or board, however it should be said.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Legal issues. Approve authorized signers for Ellers Investors, State Farm Bank, Morgan and Stanley.
So, in dealing with some of our investments, we're unable to communicate with them because nobody that was on it is here anymore except one individual, Peterson over there, and we'd like to change it so that it's typically the mayor, the administrator, assistant administrator, and the finance director or finance clerk, depending on what you have in those positions that are on those appointments. And these are the examples of what on the top here, the Ellers one, the one that you have at the top is what we'd like to change all 3 of them to. And the other ones are the examples. Apologize, one of them in here is the old example. So I'd like to change Ellers Investment Partners to the mayor, myself, Shane is the assistant, and Peggy Zwak is a finance clerk. On the Morgan Stanley, same, the mayor, myself, as council member representative, Tony Peterson and Shane. And then for the State Farm, the appointment would be Mayor Dimmers, myself, Peggy Zwak, and Shane again. On both the certificate of deposit for both accounts, on that one.
Okay, just question, why is Peggy on 2 of them, but Tony's on the other?
Because,
You need a rep?
yeah, they, on that one, they wanted a council rep,
Okay.
mayor and council rep. And these have to be appointed, and we have to provide minutes from the council meeting. So that's why these have to be changed. Typically, you know, in my position in the charter, I can appoint people in these things and write who the mayor is and write that, but we need the council minutes to go along with this, so.
Do you need individual motions or can we cover them all in one?
You could make one motion as, make the changes as I verbally stated.
As stated?
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2019-16 approving a premises permit application for Currytown and Country Booster, Inc. So
It's the same thing as.
Charity gambling.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
Over at Bonnie and Clyde.
just like we did for the Garvin Fire Department. Not too long ago.
Okay,
I'd make the motion to approve resolution 2019-16.
first and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2019-16, 2019-16, approving premises permit application for Currytown and Country Boosters approved. Do I have to read that whole thing out like that?
We like it.
Okay. Just want to make sure. All right, resolution 2019-17 has been approved already. Resolution 2019-18, amend fee schedule.
So as you saw in your packet, there's a couple fees, and these are kind of some lingering changes that come up, or if we find a mistake, we bring it up. One thing is we don't have a satisfaction of mortgage fee, and we're getting to a point where some of our mortgages are, through EDA and stuff, are starting to come due, and we're starting to do that process, and it can end up costing the city money. So, you know, with the paperwork that Jeff has to do and the legal fees that we have to generate those documents, we'd like to apply, which is very common in the industry, $100 fee for satisfaction of mortgage. The trash rates that you see there, the 35 gallon, 35 to 65, 65 to 95, and 1.5 yard, are based on the contracted rate that we have, plus the 25-cent fee for citywide cleanup. And that, the 25-cent fee was not reflected in the last fee schedule. So we need to add that 25-cent fee so we can.
Wasn't that on the water bill still? That was where they were collecting it before, as for the compost.
That's
It may not have been reflected in the schedule, but it has been collected.
correct. The compost has been collected, and
Right.
that's for the compost site.
Yeah.
The garbage is for the city cleanup for the dumpsters and to get rid of the.
Oh, this isn't the monthly garbage bill, this is the,
Nope, this is added, there's 25-cent fee added to the monthly garbage bill to fund the city cleanup twice a year.
okay, then we're not using that 25 cent from the compost pit for labor out there anymore. What are we using that for?
That's what it was being used for now. The last citywide cleanups, that's where that money has been used for.
Right. So we're not getting an increase, you're just designating it.
No, yeah, what happened was we have been collecting 25 cents
Right.
ongoing for years prior.
Yep.
When the rates came up with the garbage, it was adjusted incorrectly and it didn't reflect that 25 cent in it, that 25 cent charge.
So that compost charge went away last.
Well, we were
Right.
still collecting it and,
And that's what's confusing me, you're still collecting a quarter a month from
well,
everybody.
okay, so so we collect it from the garbage provider we subtracted off their bill, 25 cent off the fees. So the fee is, and this is the way it was set
How
up
that
previously.
happened.
We got a raise and we didn't know
It
it.
was before me, I just get to tell you about it. So the $9.94, that fee was previously, I think it was $9.86 or something, and it was because it got adjusted without factoring in the 25 cent that we were collecting the entire time. So the new rate that was put into there in, I think, May of last year did not reflect the correct amount. That's not making sense, but.
No, it's as clear as mud.
So, very simply, and I'm gonna put it in real simple numbers, if we were collecting $6, if the garbage was charging us $6 for a certain size bin, we were collecting $6.25.
Okay, all right, stop there.
Yep.
That's not how it was supposed to work, that's not how it was agreed to. How did it get there?
It's been like that years prior.
They're referring to 2000, something that happened in 2005.
No. Yeah, but that,
That was long before the compost labor was ever added. So I think there's two 25
There
cents
must be
out there.
225, and that's, now the mud's starting to part a little bit.
That's where I got confused too when she asked, but
We are subtracting off of what we pay the garbage provider, off the
No,
contract.
I understand that, and that's supposed to cover some of the overhead to do the billing for them. I thought that was supposed to cover our postage.
Some of the billing, some of the postage, and then citywide cleanup was part of it from what and again, I didn't,
And that's where my
Way before
confusion
me.
comes in, because that citywide cleanup was supposed to come from that
Compost.
25 cent off the compost
which is what's been paying for that.
for the cleanup. So
Okay.
that's where I got, what you're talking about, I remember as
Okay.
an additional fee in a garbage bill that we would take off the bill to go into waste management or whoever it is.
Correct.
And we'd use that to pay for doing their bookwork for them, billing it.
and when their rate increase came up, that's what was applied to the bills. Instead of their rate increase and keeping our
And
25 cents on there. So it got subtracted out of the 25 cents that the city was
Okay.
collecting.
All right.
So the new amounts go up very minimally.
So, yeah, but so it's not
reflects their-
necessarily for citywide cleanup. That's our admin fee we're collecting.
Correct.
Now, the mud is part of, I can see the rocky shore.
You're coming up out of the mud, Tony.
Okay, so does that make sense for all
It does
four
now,
of them?
yes.
Okay.
That compost fee threw me off there, because that's an entirely different deal, it has nothing to do
And the
with it.
compost fee is still being charged.
Right. I know, it was on my last water bill.
Yeah, and that's for,
The original intention of that was to hire someone to monitor out to the compost site for any violators,
Which they did.
which they did.
Okay.
And they
And the guy that did it
didn't do it anymore.
didn't do it. And then
But they never
Yeah,
stopped
yeah.
collecting a fee. Well, then that fund grew. And that's what financed the first citywide cleanup.
citywide cleanup. So then, by adding that in here, are we going to discontinue
Oh,
that fee?
back to the mud.
I don't know. No, that is for, it's administrative fee.
That's an
for doing all the
administrative,
garbage, the work and the things like that for,
because we bill on Southwest Sanitation's behalf on our
Well, I
water.
get that part.
So that 25 cents that Chris is talking
Okay.
about is for the administration fee
Admin stuff.
Admin service.
of billing that. Now, this other 25 cents, what Tony's talking about, is, I think it's listed as compost surcharge
Yep.
on the water bill.
Yep.
That pays for citywide cleanup.
Okay,
Originally, it was for compost, but what that's been paying for now is illegal stuff that gets dropped out there
Yep.
with the absence of labor. We usually keep a dumpster at our facility now to haul everything from there back here, so we don't have DNR and MPCA after us for the
Sure.
site.
Right.
And then whatever's left out of there, I think it's like $2,500 comes to my mind, what it amounts to, pays for the citywide cleanup, you know, to haul away the tires, the mattresses, 3 dumpsters that we get, and anything else. that's
Okay.
incidental to that.
but
So
now
your
you're
fee-
proposing,
so essentially what happened here is the garbage fees went up and it got reflected out of our 25 cent fee that we're supposed to be getting.
Out of our admin fee.
It didn't raise up the rate
Yeah.
accordingly.
okay,
And we're asking for the rate to be adjusted accordingly so that the provider gets their cut and we get our 25 cent cut.
yep, all right,
Do the billing and that.
Yep.
got it.
So you're saying it's only going up 15 cents or whatever it is,
Um,
essentially?
Yeah, I think one was 80, I think it was 86 and it went to 94.
Okay.
You know, it's
Sounds-
pretty minimal.
Yep.
Yeah, because this was 11 something, it was like 11.90 something, it went up to 12.
Yep, that's correct.
All right.
Okay, with that understood.
Oh, we got all that figured out.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the amendments to the fee schedule in resolution 2019-18.
Second that.
First and second, discussion.
I have this little bit of discussion. So how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Is it when they send the?
This was a mistake
fees?
in the administration office, and I promise it won't happen again.
Okay, so when they would tell us the rates are going up, what they're gonna charge our residents,
Correct, we get
it will
notified from,
automatically go up 25, or.
our 25 cents will
still-
always stay above it. So if
Okay.
they raise it up from, you know, if they're at $9.86 and they raise it to $9.94, we will add our 25 cents to that every time.
And then do we
We'll
have
make
to
sure.
do a resolution to increase it?
We'll amend the fee.
Amend the fee schedule? Okay. Very good. Any further discussion? You're satisfied? Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 2019-18 amended fee schedule passes. Resolution 2019-19 gambling permit St. Mary's, July 11th, 2019.
So
Tell us
that
about that.
is interesting piece of mail that we got the other day. They are, that was the separated
They're
one,
holding
right?
something on July 11th.
Yeah, they have a
So
gambling
it's separate
event.
from the 3 dates that you approved previously.
Okay. So it looks like it's a raffle, yes?
Yes.
All right.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-19, a gambling permit for St. Mary's for July 11th.
No second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2019-19 gambling permit for St. Mary's, July 11th, 2019 is approved. All right, consent calendar, municipal accounts payable.
I'll make a motion to approve the municipal accounts payable without Breakthrough Beverage and to approve the library minutes from 1/3/2019.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Just under discussion, just the $58,976, that come out of the Sanford's trust fund that we're holding for them for improvements at the hospital.
That's correct. And Sanford gets a report
Yep.
every time that we take some out of it.
Just wanted to make sure
Where
the
it
public
is.
is aware that we're spending the money as they ask for it, so.
Very good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Breakthrough Beverage.
Make a motion to approve the Breakthrough Beverage payments.
First and second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Unfinished business, clearing sidewalk ordinance.
So as you may recall, the planning commission was reviewing the city clearing sidewalks. You guys reviewed it last meeting and decided it seemed not like a good idea, so you asked me to review the ordinance. Actually, myself and Diane actually dug into it, looked into it, and I discussed it with Shane again today. And essentially, the problem is, as far as a enforcement standpoint, is that ordinance 236 is kind of a complicated procedure for us to be able to enforce sidewalk or their lack of maintenance on the sidewalks. The short version of is we must receive a written complaint before the city can act based on this ordinance on anything. And to date, I have not received any written complaints on any sidewalks in town. The written complaint has to be, as it states in here, I think signed, the property adjacent, talks about the accumulation of, and the recorded owner of the tenant. Then after the administration office would receive that, we would push out a notice to the property owner. Then after 48 hours of the property owner's notice, then and only then could Public Works remove the snow from that sidewalk. Now, by the time we draft a letter, get a complaint from someone, draft a letter, and then send it out and give them the 48-hour waiting period, again, with notices that we have yet to receive from anybody,
4 days.
we're on to the next snowfall.
So, based on this, say we send a certified letter out, which is what it specifies,
Yeah.
how the notification is to commence. So, property owner gives us a written notice, say after 24 or 48 hours not being cleared. So then it takes another day, so we're at 36 hours, whatever. And then certified mail, like on average, it's a week and a half, 2 weeks before I get the return receipt, and sometimes it's a month if it takes the third try for them to get their certified. So, you know, we're looking at, if I send one now, it might be all gone by the time we actually get it. Then you charge them for that, or? I mean,
Which is
Well-
why nobody's reporting it.
Well, and that needs to change. I mean, you've got a guideline. If your grass is too long, get it cut. If you're not cut, we're gonna come and cut it, whatever the timeline is. We could come up with the same rules applied to snow removal. If you, after 2-inch snowfall, if it's still there 48 hours later, we're gonna take it out and send you the bill.
And that's exactly what I was gonna ask you for, is some parameters of what you'd like to see, and then we can draft an ordinance, bring it forth for you to look at and amend or pass, depending on how it fits with
I
what.
believe that's what it is in St. Paul.
Any clue when
48
this
hours.
was written?
94.
94.
Is that what?
I don't know what it was before they changed it in 94.
Oh, that was.
Do you have
94.
that?
What it was before?
Ordinance number 9.
Yeah, it was, fantastic, and we'll take it.
90.
2 seconds.
Go back.
Ordinance 9 is pretty low numbered.
It was 24 hours. If they didn't clear the snow walk after 24 hours, the city could come in, clear it, and bill them accordingly. And the way it's in our fee schedule right now is that we can bill, it's a $75 fine if they don't do it,
Yep.
and we bill by the equipment rate with operator for
Yep.
Public Works to do it.
So, just so, you know, you kind of wanted to mirror how we do the weed notices. So that gets sent out, and what we do is after we mail it, we usually assume there's 3 days for them to receive it. So what we'd use is seven days, business days, and then we'll go over and mow the grass. And once we send them one notice, it's for the whole growing season. So if you mirror that language into sidewalk snow removal, you know, if we warn them once, we don't have to warn them again. It's,
Well, what I'd like is whatever is gonna be, the least amount of paperwork and time wasted for Public Works, or whoever the enforcement, official is, the city administrators, you've got enough on your plate, you've got plenty of qualified people that could enforce this. And then whatever is gonna make it most expeditious to get them cleaned up. That's what I look at, whatever terminology is required, make it work, but.
What would you like to see as a snowfall minimum that it must be cleaned after this? What do you think's fair, or, because we should start with that as,
Well, do you use a snowfall minimum or do you use an accumulation? Because if you get 3 snowfalls of 1 inch and your limit is a 2-inch snowfall, they could arguably say, well, we never got 2 inches of snow.
well, it would be based on what's sitting on
So
there.
accumulation.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to word that it's from one snowfall or another, you just say an accumulation
Of
of,
2 inches,
of,
or.
You wouldn't even have to if you use the definition of accumulation there.
But that
Referred to as
is so
defined.
gray.
Those amounts of snow and or ice left standing on white sidewalks which are a hazard to pedestrians to, if you can slip and fall, it's a hazard.
That's a dusting.
Yep.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
But that gives these guys leeway as to, you've got sidewalks that are traveled a lot, you got sidewalks that aren't. So,
but this would also mean then that you would have to keep a bare concrete sidewalk, which right now, in this time of
Well,
year,
it's-
that ain't happening.
that's,
I'd say look around for what others have in general
Yeah.
areas and base one off that. Bring us a draft next time.
okay.
I think we need to have some
But you-
amount, because people are gonna argue if I'm sorry, if you end up charging me because there's a dusting of snow, and someone can slip on a dusting of snow, but if all of a sudden I'm gone for the weekend and I don't get back here to shovel that dusting, and I get a bill from the city, I wouldn't be happy, and I don't think a lot of these people would be happy.
No, you're right.
And so I think we have to put some type of amount.
Well, that's what I think the enforcement official should have the latitude on something like that. If your property's been consistently cleaned and then a snow event happens, and it's obvious that you didn't get it cleaned up, give yourselves a couple days and come back. And instead of coming over there Monday and blowing the snow and you get on Monday afternoon with a bill, give them a reasonable amount of time, or, you know, you're never going to make everybody happy with it, but I think the goal here is to give Public Works the option of clearing the sidewalks and recouping it from the property owners.
My only concern here is, I mean, obviously the enforcement's there, but no one's giving anything in writing. What do you do with the highway?
Oh, I know, it's, that's the hard part. That's why, as the enforcement official, you need to get heavily involved in how you want this written, because I'll use the sidewalk at the park across the street from me. You guys are out there every snowfall and you clean it up, and then the plows come by.
Yep.
And then they come by again, and then they come by again, and then it freezes, and then there's nothing there. I mean, it's
It's a bear.
yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible unless you're out there all the time. But there's foot traffic going up and down, well, use 3rd Street from the highway downtown here, where you can't, the snowshoes would be a difficult trick because nobody's cleaned the sidewalks in a lot of places.
And there are people that are blatantly not doing their
No,
sidewalks.
Right.
That's who you're targeting.
You
And
need
that's
to
what-
find that
Person's
balance.
gone.
That's what we're looking for,
Yeah.
because let's be realistic, we live in Minnesota, folks. Come on, it's gonna snow.
Well, I'll get some verbiage from some other communities. I'll reach out, try and research it out a little, and if I think I can get something dialed in enough, we'll present you a ordinance, but you'll have to review it and then propose a public hearing for it.
Sure.
And so we're not gonna do anything that's gonna happen in what
This year, it's gonna be next
Right.
season's snowfall it would be ready for.
Yep. So we've got time.
Yep.
We've got
Yeah.
time to dial it in and make it fair.
And we don't wanna beat it to death either, we just want something that's reasonable and enforceable.
Okay. I'll take that guidance then. Anything?
All right. Moving on. Gross legal opinion regarding on-sale liquor license kitchen requirements.
So as you probably saw, we crossed off the public hearing for on-sale kitchen requirements because of the findings. Right now, we are a split liquor city. What that means is you can have municipally owned, where there's no other liquor license available. You can have municipal and private, which is split, which is what we have, and then you can have just private. In the split liquor license that we have, or the type that we have, we are required by Minnesota state law, which supersedes our law, to impose a kitchen requirement on every other location that serves intoxicating liquor and isn't a bottle setup, or, you know, like, for instance, a bowling alley or a private club. Now, a private club cannot allow public members in, or I'm sorry, cannot allow public in. It becomes a public facility if it lets public in. And I'm going to use the Eagles specifically as an example. Since public are allowed in there, that's not a private club. So that's why they put a kitchen, or met the kitchen requirement when they wanted to add that a few years back. So we are not allowed to amend that. Now, as far as Tracy City Council dictates what a kitchen is classified as. Currently, we use the Minnesota state standard for kitchen, size-wise and things like that. As you may remember from our last meeting, we talked about, I think it was 700 square feet and can serve up to 72 people, something like that. That kitchen requirement, as it's written in our city code, is a reflection from the Minnesota kitchen requirement. There are cities who have amended that. And I guess that's where we're at. So how you want to proceed from here is,
Where would we find some information on amending that to allow someone to purchase, let's say, when we move out of the liquor store over there and open up a bar?
there's really nothing to research on that because it's what you as a council dictate that you consider a kitchen. It's not enforceable from AGE, which is the Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement. And I did speak with the representative for our area today and talk to him about it. An example is maybe perhaps you consider a pizza oven to be meet a kitchen requirement. Certain kind of sandwiches. An example of a bar that I've seen in another town, they have a crock pot with hot beef sandwiches in every day. And they make sandwiches and that's their kitchen requirement. So it's up to the city of Tracy. I will tell you this, Sunday liquor to be open is more restrictive.
Well, and I was
Sunday
just gonna
liquor
say, I don't think you should,
requires 100% a kitchen.
yep. I
And they're
agree with
very
that.
strict on that.
Yep. But I think we would help ourselves economically if we could allow someone to open a business and use a pizza oven as a kitchen. I mean, you get the tax based off the business, you get people employed by working in the place. I think it's just a win-win. And I'm not saying somebody come in it, but that's a roadblock we should remove.
And that could be minimal.
Yeah.
They could have more if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted more, but it would be a
If they
minimum
want
that
a
they at
Sunday
least
license,
have.
then they better have a,
Would it be worth waiting until someone's in that to see what they propose back? You know, because maybe they have some ideas of what they want to do and then we're not being restrictive now. Because we don't have anybody beating down the door right now.
no, I
or at least
understand that, but
anybody
at the time it takes to adjust it too. I mean, if somebody bought the Anderson building tomorrow with the sole plan of opening a bar, game room in there, but can't because they don't have a kitchen, you know, what do we tell them?
Yeah.
You know, you got a 30-day wait, you got a public hearing, I think if we get out in front of it and keep our definitions as
Minimal.
That's
necessary.
minimal.
Yeah,
And that's what we have to do, is we'd have to amend what our definition of a kitchen is.
it's.
Because because we have the square footage of 700 feet, and you have to serve 72 people.
See, they didn't all have to eat.
You'd almost want to get rid of most of that, because if
Yeah.
we're saying a pizza oven and or a microwave or crock pot is the minimal.
I don't think a crock pot makes a kitchen, though.
Well, I know the state.
But you know what I'm
Board of
saying.
Health.
I've had some pretty good meals out of a crock
I have
pot.
a lot of good meals out of it.
Absolutely.
I would think the owner would run into
Yeah.
problems with,
Right. Well, yeah.
Well, they're
That would
gonna
be
have
their
to meet
risk.
health, they're gonna have to have a
Right.
health license and, you know, things like, or,
But yeah, the number of people I don't think is, because if somebody wanted to open up just a little strip bar that would seat 10 people,
And they gotta serve some type of hot food.
yeah.
That's-
I'd say we go as minimalistic as possible, because then they still need a liquor license from us, from the city, so we can, any other requirements we could lay down according to that too.
But the potential would still be there.
Right. Gotta start somewhere minimal and work it from there. So add something else to your plate.
food handler's license too, I would assume, so that they're operating safe kitchen.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think the health would require
Yeah.
it, but,
Yeah.
hot food was one thing you said, food handler's license, any kind of seating requirement or size-wise, that's written now.
I
Do you wanna
know.
take that out completely, do you wanna?
I would take it out completely
I don't see-
personally.
Yeah.
Because most places, if they're gonna serve food, they're gonna wanna serve as many as they can.
Or they're gonna use that to subsidize their business?
Correct. And it keeps people in your bar.
And it works the other way too. If somebody wants to come in and put in a cafe and serve drinks, don't tell him how many people he's got to seat, so.
play around with it.
Okay. I'll do some digging. And, but the absolutes that you want on there is hot food and a food handler's license.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start selling beer out of the MPC. Except don't put that in the paper.
You buy the license, go ahead. Serve beer out of there.
Well, you know, at that rate, you could serve beer.
That'll be their
you could
chatter
serve out of the
tomorrow.
back of your
Yeah, I was
truck.
gonna say.
If you got a food handler's license and serve hot food.
You wanna review it before you hold a public hearing, I
Be a
assume?
good idea.
Okay, I think so too.
Absolutely. I think we do. Okay. So, moving on. Need a motion to adjourn. Well, new business, there is none, I assume. Is there any?
Nope.
Okay. Mayor and council communication?
I have one since it got brought up tonight, the cleanup day. Has that been in the works? Since you're smiling, I'm assuming.
Well, I just had made a note to put it on the next agenda. to
Okay,
set
We don't know
the
if we have a lot yet.
Yeah, it made me a swimming
Depending
pool.
on snowfalls to be determined.
date. Yeah,
Well, if nothing else, we'll
Let's play.
fill up the dumpsters with snow and let them haul that.
We'll play it by the weather.
That's some expensive snow hauling there.
Generally, it's
Middle of June, wasn't it?
middle of May.
Middle of May.
May.
It's
Oh, that's
been
right.
rained down every time I had one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true too. All right.
We'll look into it. I'll talk to Shane and then we'll figure something out.
If you can't do the cleanup, maybe we can stock it with fish.
But you know, in the second April meeting.
Yeah, I think so.
I should know more
Okay,
about them.
any other communication?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? I'd just like to quick slide in there that encourage folks to come out and volunteer for some of these sports. Okay, so any other discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Hey, Chris, any word yet from